I have today Soozy G. Miller. She's an expert in employment services. Susie, thanks for joining me today. I'd love to learn a little bit about what it is exactly you do and where your market is and what you're doing now in the future, what your plans are.
It's great to be here. So, my experience is I basically help executives who feel stuck in their career. I help them to get unstuck. And I do that by helping them. I give them the tools and the new materials to be able to land their next awesome opportunity. And then, if that awesome opportunity turns out to be not so awesome, I give them those tools and methodologies to be able to control what they do next so they can control their career until they don't want to work anymore.
Wow. Sounds like a game of helping them find their passion and what fits, would you
Yes,
say?
it is very much that because a lot of executives are not where they want to be, or they have entered the right field. They've been working in the right field, but the company isn't a good fit anymore, or they just want to do more. So I help them find a fit that's right for them.
Are these mainly high-end executives? Are you also hitting middle management as well, type of things? What's
Um,
going on in that field?
Mostly I work with executives because I know that the company culture is set from the top down. And so when an executive feels comfortable in their job, when an executive feels inspired in their job, then they are going to set a more positive culture for everyone else. And I found that when executives are happier and more confident where they are, that helps to make the company culture a lot better.
What got you to what you're doing now? What drove you into this field yourself?
So I've been a marketing writer for a really long time, for 30 years. I've
Okay.
been a marketing writer. I wrote a lot of business content for businesses. And one day a resume company came to me, a large place called Talent Inc. came to me and said, "Will you write resumes for us?" And I said, "Nope, thank you so much. I'm happy where I am." And I bid them adieu. And then they came back at me again a couple of weeks later and they said, "Come on, write resumes for us." And I said, "No, I'm good. Thank you." They kept at me and kept at me. And finally I was like, "Okay, I'll see what's here." I had never written a resume. I didn't know how to do it. I had no idea what was going on. And I started writing for them. And what I found pretty quickly was that all of the resumes that I wrote, all of those clients got jobs from the resumes that I wrote, like immediately. No methodology, no planning, no nothing. Just from my writing, they were landing jobs left and right. And I said, wow, so I can really help people here. And then I got certified in resume writing and I got certified as a behavioral analyst. And I just started realizing with all the layoffs and with all the problems with contractors and middle management, that they were all complaining about their leadership. Maybe I can help with that by making the executive more comfortable in their position and better leaders. I can make the company better in general.
Been a few people there at Talent Inc. that chased you because they saw something in it that you didn't see yourself. That's
Right.
amazing, but that does happen to people where sometimes you pivot, but the pivot is because somebody recognized this innate talent that you had and how it would apply in their industry. That's fantastic, Susie.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I've also been chased by one of the big radio stations. I forget the name of it. I think it's like Radio America or something, because they saw
Yeah.
in writing that I have a breadth of experience in writing. And they said, "Will you come talk about writing?" So that's one sort of in the mixes. So, yes, others have noticed talents or tangential skills that I didn't realize were there.
So you've had some broadcast type of interviews then I imagine where people are asking about your talents and took an interest. They know you had something to offer a lot of people in their audience.
Yes, and it's really about reducing stress. I'm seeing people, executives and others, that are applying to 100, 200, 500 positions and not hearing back, and they're running out of money, or they're just so
Wow.
stressed they can't think straight. And I'm trying to help them with their situation. I'm trying to get them to de-stress, that you should not be applying to 100, 200, 500 positions. You should be applying to
Yeah.
five at a time. And if you're applying to five, or more than 5 in a week, and you're not hearing anything back, that means you're applying to the wrong jobs and or your resume isn't working.
You definitely have a kind of a system in place. Where are you finding the most chaos happening right now, and how do you attack that particular genre of people?
The most news I see about the chaos is on LinkedIn. That's where I see all the chaos happening. What people posting about it is on LinkedIn. What I'm actually doing about it is a little bit difficult. I'm trying to monitor the situation to see where everything's going. I'm trying to listen to executive recruiters and see what they're saying. I'm trying to listen to human resources professionals and executives and see what they're saying. And I'm trying to listen to the job seekers and see what their experiences have been. The biggest
Wow.
change that I've made in my methodology is I tell people that choose to work with me. I used to be able to say until December, I used to be able to say, you will land an interview, at least one interview in a week and at least one job offer in 3 months. I can no longer say that. So I don't give a time limit on it or a time frame to it anymore because it's unfair to them. It's a crazy, chaotic hiring world right now. And I'm just trying to keep track of it to be able to coach and inform my clients as best I can. Right now, it's chaos.
You certainly have a lay of the land. It's
I
probably from
try to,
keeping your
yeah,
ear to the ground.
yeah.
So that's excellent. That certainly helps your clients. Wow, that's a lot to deal with when you're dealing with chaos every day. How do you handle that? Does that give you any stress yourself? Or you much
No, it
pretty
doesn't give me
much
stress myself, but it makes me try to think of more and more ways that I can bring value to my clients, more and more ways that I
wow.
can address their needs and help them with the stress. Because when they're coming to me, they need me. When they're coming to me, they need to get this situation fixed. And executives, as I'm sure you've experienced, are can be very decisive about what they want to do next and where they want to be and how much money they want to make. But this world right now has pulled the rug out from under them. So they know what they want. They just don't know how to get there. And that is where I try to come up with ways to pacify them, to de-stress them, to give them information so that, because information is power, right? So I try to give them information so that they feel empowered. They may not get exactly what they want every time, but at least they'll get closer to what they need.
Sounds like you're the sharpshooter for them and acting
Yes,
as the advisor, as a mentor type of thing, because that's what people seem to need right now in these times.
they really
Uh,
do. They
that's
really have.
fantastic. You're stepping up. You're definitely stepping up, Susie, to help people.
I do. I try every day.
It's excellent. Have you ever written for yourself any kind of an autobiography or
I've never written a autobiography,
written any
but
books?
but LinkedIn started about a year ago, maybe 6 months ago. LinkedIn
Uh-huh.
started a newsletter that you could do if you categorized your profile as a creator, which I did. You can write a newsletter. And because I am naturally a writer and it's my wheelhouse, when I had that opportunity, I was like, oh, I could get words on paper now. Like I could actually start to write down my feelings about stuff and write about my experiences so others can learn from it. I write now every 2 weeks. It started as every week, but I have too many clients. So now it's every other week. I write a column called Empowering Your Job Search. And I don't know, I'm proud that it's now got about 750 subscribers starting from zero. Every week it goes up by a few. So it's like this organic increase, which I really like. And yeah, it's just me giving advice in a digestible way, like one small topic at a time every other week to let people think about it and how it can empower their job search.
The people that would subscribe are going to be people either in need or in the same field and they're learning from you, but they're taking more of an active interest because, as I understand the newsletters, it's where they get a notification anytime you do publish.
Yes. Yeah.
You can have several thousand people and it may show up in their feed randomly. You may catch people that way, but the newsletter, that seems like a wonderful thing that you're doing there. That's excellent because you're making your own following habit and you're helping people directly in a way where they get to know you personally.
Yes.
So that in itself is valuable, I think, because LinkedIn by itself can be a little one dimensional.
Very
When
one
you've got a
dimensional. I agree with
Yeah,
that.
you're showing more of yourself. I think that's a great thing to be doing.
But it's also
Have you
because
done,
I'm a writer because I'm a writer, I
oh,
will
yes,
think things at
right?
the craziest times. I'll be eating dinner or I'll be walking the dog or I'll be doing something like, "Oh, I have to write about that. Wait a minute. How do I get that down on paper? What that's a great idea." And it's just funny how I get a little crazy like that. Like all of a sudden I'll get an idea, say, "Okay, I got to put this down. This is a great idea. Where do I put it? How do I get it there?"
Well, I keep some notes on my phone so that if
Yeah,
I
but if
catch
I'm
a
walking the
time,
dog, I don't have my phone necessarily.
you don't
So
have your phone. Are you able to hold that idea long enough to get it up?
the minute I walk in the door and get put on my desk, I'm like,
Yeah, that's fun. Because you can get excited about it when you have an idea and you know it's fresh and you get a little bit excited on that dog run and you got to get back in there and get
"Oh,
that idea down.
I
Yeah,
know."
yeah, sounds good. I know I said paper. It's probably digital, right?
Yeah, no, it's because I'm old fashioned. I'm from the era we still wrote things down on
Mhm.
paper. I still have note stuff that I write down. My desk is filled with notes of clients and notes of ideas and notes like even though I have horrible handwriting and sometimes I can't read my own writing and I'm better off dictating it right into the phone, I still write things down. It somehow helps me remember them. And actually, that's actually what I do with my clients. Instead of taking information over the phone from them, I have them work on a questionnaire. I send them a questionnaire to get more details about their experience because I find when people write things down, they're more apt to remember them and then and they can refer back to those notes that they wrote down so that the information that they give me is better and more helpful for me to be able to help them.
Physically writing it down, I quite agree. I've heard that statement before. There must be some good research behind it. Because they just say when you physically write something
Yes.
down, your memory's a lot more solid and it works better, basically. So it's,
Yes.
yeah, that's a good thing that you're still doing it.
Because then you can
Okay, fashion, if you want to call
right
it.
is old fashioned, but you can also the person can also then refer back to what they were doing. So if for example, some people will when I send them the questionnaire, they will take 5 minutes to finish it really fast. I've had someone take up to 2 weeks to do it because they really wanted to be detailed and they really wanted to put the energy into it. Either way, the information is there. You see what you wrote. You can cross it out. You could put notes in. You can do whatever to be able to give me the final feedback, the final answers to the questions. But I just find that when they handwrite or when they type it in, they're thinking through it better. And that's what I need them to do because inevitably the resume that comes to me, the original resume, is unreadable and very hard to decipher. And so it's my job to make it clear to the hiring teams, to the hiring companies, what exactly this person is trying to say. Being for them to be able to reread their notes and for me, it just gives me more details so that I can advocate for them, or so I can help them advocate for themselves.
Seems like you bring clarity to the situation because you
Very much
understand,
so, and very
what
important.
the,
That's a very good word. Clarity is an excellent word for this because people do not have clarity when they come to me. A lot of the times it's because of stress. It's a lot of times because of stress,
yeah.
but they come to me and they will say, "I don't understand this. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. I don't understand what's next. I don't understand this process." And a lot of my job is clarifying for them. You do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and here's how you do it. And it's a step by step thing to get their minds clear about the process.
Well,
And
that's mentoring for sure. You're really a great coach. I
thank
have
you.
to hand it to you for what you're willing to do because that takes patience and
A
listening
lot of patience.
and all the note taking and how to bring it into something that's clarified where the people that are getting the resume where it comes to the top, bubbles to the top, and
Yes.
they
Yes.
become a potential hire. That's a great value in itself. You earn every penny for the amount of time and hours and the years that you put into it, for
Thank you.
sure. What are the best ways for people to find you? Would it be LinkedIn or is there a website as well that you use that gets on people's
Yes.
interest?
Yes. So like most of my contacts come through LinkedIn, but people will also find my site. So LinkedIn, you can search for me, Suzy Miller, Sozy Miller. The name of the company is Control Your Career. The website is
Wow.
controlyourcareer.net. And I did that on purpose because that's exactly what I'm trying to help people do, control their career. So that's the name of the service, Control Your Career. And the website is controlyourcareer.net.
You are dealing with a lot more going on with the amount of stress because that's the chaos that's in people's minds and trying to figure it out. I imagine they're really second guessing themselves.
Oh,
Would you
all the
think that's
time.
what's happening? It
They're
is.
second guessing themselves. And remember, I mentioned earlier that executives tend to be very decisive about they want this next, they
Yeah.
want this next. An interesting thing has been happening lately that executives are coming to me and they are just flustered. People that are normally big decision makers, easy to make decisions based on the data, based on people, based on whatever information they have, based on their gut feeling, which has always served them. I'm seeing a lot of executives who are now flustered and stressed and just overwhelmed. And what do I do? And how do I do this? And it takes a little bit of effort to get them to trust me because I'm coming in, I'm charging them a certain amount for the work that I do, and they want to be sure that what they're
For sure.
doing is going to work. And I know that it's going to work because it's worked for hundreds of people hundreds of my clients. I know it's going to work, but I also understand the stress that they're feeling when you're feeling that kind of pressure and that kind of chaos. You don't know where to start. You don't know who to trust. You don't know where to go. And so it is a lot of energy that I spend, and I'm happy to do it, but it's a lot of energy that I spend on getting them to trust, getting them clarified, getting them to understand the process and how it's going to benefit them.
The quandary I think they're facing is they've been thrown off their game and they really
Yes.
are in trouble
Yes.
and need you from the standpoint of finding clarity, finding themselves in a way where
Yes.
they might not have thought of the solutions because their minds clouded up. Uh, you're
Yes.
you're helping solve that. So that's huge. Is there was something I think you were working on that's HH, is it?
LHH. So I just signed a contract. LHH is a large career services agency that goes to get contracted with corporations, big corporations, to help employees who have been laid off, help them get their footing again, help them. It's not like usual clientele because, as I said, my usual clientele is executives. However, I
Yeah.
saw so many posts on LinkedIn of people, non executives, suffering and stressed and lost that I said, I can't reach this many people on my own. So I'm now contracted with LHH, which so I can now help a lot of people during the week that I would not necessarily be able to get to. So I feel really good about that because I'm going to reach a lot more people. And again, non executives who are feeling stressed who need to put dinner on the table.
Becoming self-directed where you do take that control and you do make decisions as far as stepping out of the corporate world. Are there people you run into that you ever advise to do that because it might be the right solution for them? Because there's people that hold on to the apron strings of a corporation. They get maybe the golden handcuff kind of mentality
Yes.
to it, and they can't
Yes.
break out, and they're frustrated because of that. Do you run into that kind of situations at times?
What I have run into is people who are unsure which path to take. So I've
Yeah.
written resumes, executive resumes for executives who are saying, I think I want to go out on my own, but I'm not sure. Or I've run into a couple of executives who did try to go out on their own. Something didn't go right. The entrepreneur side is failing or struggling. And so now they have to have some kind of paycheck coming in order to support that endeavor. So they'll have a resume and be applying to a position, an executive position in corporate, while they're trying to figure out the entrepreneurial side. So it's a backup. So I will have people do that. What I've also found is that an executive will sometimes question everything I'm doing with them. I will give them the first draft or we'll talk about the strategy and they'll say, no, I really don't want to do that. And no, I really don't want to do that. Or we'll go over the first draft together or we'll go over their old resume, their original resume together. And they'll say, oh, I really don't like that. And no, I didn't like that. And I'll say to them, are you sure you want to be doing this? You've given me an awful lot of negative feedback. Are you sure you don't want to go somewhere else or try something else for yourself? Like, you sound like you really want control of what you're doing overall. You sure you don't want to go out on your own? And we'll have that conversation. But it usually falls into one of the two categories. Either they're really do want to pursue something entrepreneurial, but they need income coming in, so they need a resume for that. Or we're in the middle of talking about everything and they're just giving me indications like they really do want to be on their own. They don't want to have the golden handcuffs. So it'll be one of those two ways. And again, I'm happy to have the conversation with them so they can figure out what they want to do.
Well, I just goes right back to clarity and getting in
Yes.
control of the
Yes.
career and
Yes.
defining that career.
Yes, but
What's the path?
sometimes even the definition, they know what they wanna do, they just don't know how to get there, and that's why they're talking to
Ah,
me. They know, "I
yeah.
really want to play for the Yankees," right? "I really wanna be a manager for the Yankees. That's what I really wanna do." And I will say to them, "There is nothing in your resume that supports that. So are you sure that you really want to do something like that? Because you can try to apply to something like that. Kudos to you for following your dream. You're going to try to apply to that. You might want to change your resume or not use this resume or use connections like that may not be the best pursuit for you, according to what I see on your resume." So,
I've had no place, in other words, of wanting to go that direction. If anybody's seen or wanting to hire them, start them in some position, or especially try to come in at an executive coach or organization within a sports team, the administrative side of things. So they may have some chops in corporate, but will it actually transfer? And then the resume doesn't say anything to it at all. You got to put in the time in that field. That could be it,
that's
could it?
also it's interesting that you bring that up because a couple of executive recruiters have said they're expecting another great resignation because
Really?
yes, because there was the pandemic, which messed everything up, caused a lot of problems. Then there was the great resignation, which was middle level employees and contractors who didn't want to be under bad management anymore. Now there are executives who are being let go because the company's saying they're restructuring. And then there are these mass layoffs that are happening where people suddenly, I saw some posts that a gentleman got laid off at 10 o'clock at night and was told, don't come in the next morning. And this was for thousands of employees. It wasn't just him. It was, they were told the night before at 10 p.m., the company is now closed. Do not come in for work tomorrow. Now, you can be sure people did not see that email the night before and showed up for work the next day and the doors were closed. But executive recruiters and recruiters are now saying, as a result of all of this, all of these phases and all of these things that are happening, that people are just grabbing jobs wherever they can just to feed their families. They're just grabbing jobs left and right. And as a result, there are going to be some really unhappy people in a few months or in a couple of years. And then we're going to have the cycle again. So another great resignation again. So we'll see what happens. I'm just here to coach people and help them get through the stress and help them get through the process. I can't help with mass movement and mass trends. I can only help people through those mass movements and trends.
You're on the individual basis fighting the good fight for the person
Yes.
that's wants you in their corner. So that makes a lot of sense, though. Yeah, it's tough out there for sure. Having the ability to pivot, certainly there's opportunities when there's upheaval, but there's so many people that are just put out of position where their family expenses, the financial commitments, the level of debt, the mortgage, you name it, it just all adds up to the point where they're treading too much water. They're going under
Yeah.
unless they can grab something. So sometimes you'll see somebody who's pretty bright, you ask them a few questions, and turns out the Uber driver or the Lyft driver happens to be an executive, and this is their hustle at the moment.
Yes. Yes, I've seen that. Actually talked to a sales executive, very successful sales executive who was let go due to he had to personal injuries. So he was on leave and then he was told the job wasn't available anymore. So now he was an Uber driver and he was really suffering. But I do want to explain something about helping the individual. So a couple of pre-COVID. So several years ago, I taught a resume class at a library. And
Oh,
one of the people that came, and I love doing that. I love teaching people like the public. It was very specific methodology. And this woman came in from an hour away because no one around her did what I do or does what I do. So she came in from an hour away and I was really surprised. And she was crying. She was upset. She was just beyond, she's nobody's taking my resume. I need a job. No one's doing anything. And so I said, let me look at it briefly before the class started. So I looked at it and it was like 14 pages. And it was all double spaced and it was like 30 years of work on 14 pages. And I was like, okay, just pay attention to my class. My class is really going to help you. So I got up, I conducted the class, lots of oohs and ahs, people taking pictures of stuff, whatever. So she leaves, the class is dismissed, they go. And afterward, I'm leaving and I see her coming out of the bathroom and she is just smiling. And I was like, oh my God, I did that. Like, how awesome is that to be in a profession where she hadn't even done anything? She hadn't even applied any of the methodology. She had just taken the notes and taken the pictures of my screens. And she was smiling because she was empowered. She understood what had been doing wrong. And she now had a way to go forward. And she had hope. And that is why I do what I do. That is why I love what I do. When that turn happens, when that light bulb goes off and people are like, okay, I understand now. I've got this. That's why I do it.
God, it is a very encouraging story to anyone that needs help right now, because that's knowing where your heart is, Susie. So thank you so much. People can find you on LinkedIn. Is there contact information there, or do they have to message you there?
I believe in the about section. There's my email there. In my about section is the email and
Okay.
the link to my website is right at the top by my name.
Oh, very good. So you're not hard to find.
Yep.
That's excellent. I want to thank you for the time today to get to know you, what you do, and why, really. And that big why was right there at the end. The fact, that feeling that you get from seeing somebody being enlightened from what you've taught, even
Yeah.
they didn't even have to hire you for what you gave. And sometimes that's the best medicine, is just being able to teach and help people from that standpoint. And you'll always pick up some great clients that way. Not everyone's going to be the right client for you, no matter what work you're in. But when you teach and you enlighten people, they now see you as the expert. They really understand that you're the authority in this industry. And then they're willing to spend the money and have no qualms, because what did you do? You built trust, and trust and knowledge go together. And I think what you're doing is wonderful on that, Susie. I
Thank you.
want to thank you today for the time. And I'll see that a few great people get to see what you're doing. I'll
Thank you
spread the
so
word.
much. I appreciate it. This was
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Have a great day.